What's up, everybody? Brian here, Metalhead Whiskey Snobs, and I'm back here today with our Kentucky Bourbon Fest 2025 recap. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the mother effing ugly. Come on. Alright, welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm about to have a sip of this 13th Colony Double Oak while I run through with you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly of our trip to Kentucky Bourbon Fest. Cheers. Oh yeah, whew, that's so good. One of the best things about the festival in general is meeting new people and making new friends. We were lucky enough to run into a ton of people that recognized us from the channel and just wanted to kind of just hang out and have a pour, shoot the shit for a minute, and you know, just kind of made us feel welcome. Made some really good new friends there. Shout out to Gary and Samantha. And dude, overall the people there were generally just in really good spirits and having an awesome time. One of the other good things about the festival obviously is the whiskey. You can try so much different stuff there. A lot of the allocated stuff is not available for sample. You can find pours of that in the VIP area sometimes, but for the most part, you just get to sample a lot of smaller distilleries. I hate to call them craft, but they generally are, you know, they fall into that category. But smaller distilleries that are trying to get more reach. Some of them you would have heard of, some of them you might not have heard of. There was a lot we hadn't heard of. We were quite surprised. So, yeah, definitely the whiskey and the amount of different smaller distilleries is one of the good things about Kentucky Bourbon Fest. Another one would be the food. The food trucks out front, one of them had some really good brisket. The other ones were serving up breakfast burritos and coffee and all kinds of cool stuff for people in line, and it was generally pretty good. The VIP area inside the air-conditioned tent, they had buffets daily, ranged from anything from cocktail shrimp to beef sliders and everything in between, man. There was so much good stuff on there. The other cool thing about the festival was the music. There was a lot of good music throughout the day. A lot of classic rock and country, and just fit the general vibe of the day all around. Another great thing about the festival was the cocktails. You can get them all over the festival grounds from the different distilleries. I'd have to say probably my favorite was the Angel's Envy Peach Slushy. It was just cooled you right down on the warm day. It was amazing. And you know, the last good thing I have on my list for Kentucky Bourbon Fest is all the different kinds of tents and sheds they have there. Mainly the, you know, legacy or the, you know, more well-known distilleries had the cool custom tents and sheds and all that. You know, Angel's Envy had this big shed they had there along with Heaven Hill and Jim Beam, a couple of the others. But yeah, it was just like a cool theme all around. The whole theming of it was really awesome. Moving along to the bad. All right, so we're gonna be nice about all this stuff, okay? So limited amounts of bottles. I understand completely that not everyone's gonna get everything, and most of the time they're not gonna get what they want. But an extremely low amount of bottles released at some of these larger distilleries is always gonna cause a little disruption in the crowds. So, I mean, I know some of the distilleries have done releases of said bottles before and after. You know, I'm not understanding why they just didn't kind of bulk up their inventory for the festival a little more, especially because they seem to have sold a lot more tickets this year from what I'm hearing. Another thing I would have to say is on the bad category, it was a slightly unorganized. Not necessarily talking about the gates, you know, the entrance and all that. That was, you know, relatively as best they could do. But, you know, the lines, yeah, just the keeping general order of things. It was a little Wild West-ish. I understand you can't have everything perfect, but a little bit better organization, I feel. You know, reference the Maker's Mark fiasco if you want to know what I'm talking about. Another thing I would have to say is it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something you got to keep in mind. It is very expensive. You will spend a lot of money if you want bottles, and your credit card will want to put the squeeze on you when you get back. So just be prepared for that. It's a very expensive venture if you want a good bottle haul. Last thing I would say is that some of the larger distilleries, they were not scanning IDs. Scanning of IDs would have allowed more people to get bottles, as there were people getting more than their fair share. Let's just say that. We're about to touch on that right now with the ugly. All right, so drunk people causing problems. It is a bourbon festival. I do understand that there is some intoxication happening. I was drinking. Everybody was drinking. But, you know, there's some people that kind of just, you know, want to get their money's worth kind of thing and go a little overboard, and they can get a little unruly, and it just kind of puts a damper on everything. So that, I would say, is probably an ugly side of Kentucky Bourbon Fest, along with line jumpers. Not a fan of them. I understand if you got to run to the bathroom, if it's an emergency like that. I understand small, quick little ins and outs. But people that were joining their buddies after already being there to get one of their bottles, or, you know, running off and getting multiple others and then coming back and jumping right up front in line, not a fan of that, man. And there was no real enforcement of it, and it just created less bottles for the people further back in line. So I would say just a little enforcement on that would probably, you know, get a good hold on that issue. Yeah, which, you know, I just touched on it also. People that double and triple buy the same bottle. If they would scan IDs, so it would have limited to one per person, there wouldn't have been this problem. But there were people going through the legacy distilleries getting the rare bottles, 2 or 3 of them, and not cool. Which brings me to my last point in the ugly, and that is the flippers. I understand that is going to happen regardless, no matter what. People are going to flip bottles. That's just part of the bourbon world for some reason. But if you're going to collect a rare bottle at Kentucky Bourbon Fest and proceed to pull it out either in public or from your locker and take pictures and post it on secondary, you fall into the ugly category, man. That's not why we go. We don't go to make money and flip bottles and so other people can't, you know, get a try of all this amazing whiskey out there. Let's be more fair about this, man. Like I said, I know it's going to happen regardless, but a little enforcement on the re-jumping in line, the circling it back around for 2 or 3 with a simple ID scan, one and done, would prevent all this flipper nonsense at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, at least. All right, now for the best part of Kentucky Bourbon Fest for me. People said that I don't look as fat in person than I do on camera. So I had that going for me. Anyway, you can tune in to our next episode, which I believe will be the bottle haul. And Fish will be on that here real soon. And in the meantime, go ahead and throw us a like, a subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Metalhead Whiskey Snobs.